Welcome to Brotherly Love FC, your Philadelphia soccer show. We are counting down the start of the World Cup. We are starting the Philadelphia Union season. We are talking Philly soccer and a lot more today on a special edition of Brotherly Love FC. I'm Chris O'Connell. Union kicking off their 2026 season. Big way last night. Easy taking care of Defense Force in the first round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Ezekiel Alado scoring a goal in the Union debut. 5-0 win. The Union's next game will be Saturday when they kick off the MLS schedule down in D.C. against D.C. United. Joining me, as always, Tom Loudon. Tom, we saw a little bit of the youngsters showing up for the Union, too.
We've talked a lot about this, about Ezekiel Alado. What would he bring? He scores the first game, and then we always talk about Kevin Sullivan. He picked up his first point for the big club last night on an assist, which is great. And, you know, it just continues to count down. I think we're 112 days away from the World Cup, 10 days away from the Union home opener, and that's just the start of what's going to be a crazy big year here in Philly sports. We got the perfect guy here to talk about it.
Yeah, a huge year in Philly sports, one of the biggest years ever in Philadelphia sports. And we got the guy to talk about it, Sports Director Tom Sredenschek, joining us here. Tom, first of all, we want to let everyone know. It's okay to let everyone know your future plans?
It's out of the bag.
It's out of the bag. After 40 years here, you are leaving Fox 29 shortly, next week or so. You're retiring.
So I can watch the FIFA World Cup in peace.
So you could do it
so
and see it from the other side.
First of all, watch the Union.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend.
On an amazing career. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. I got some of your career highlights. Man, you've seen it all, really, in the last 40 years here in Philly sports.
Watch the landscape change a lot. And people ask me, Chris, you know, what's the biggest thing you did? But the biggest thing is the changing of the landscape and the way teams have changed, the way the leagues have changed, the way control of the leagues has changed, the popularity of sports. Philadelphia has always been a very big sports town. Always have had the 4 professional teams since the 60s. Just never seen it explode the way it has, the way the fan base has exploded. I mean, you guys saw nothing more this week. If you saw Jason Martinez down in spring training, the number of fans from Philadelphia that show up for a workout, not even a game. The number of fans that showed up at the complex in Clearwater to watch a workout. The growth of Philadelphia sports is great and culminates this summer.
Talk about FIFA World Cup. You're not going to be here for it. You're going to be on the other side of it. Talk about basically the landscape this year in particular, with the FIFA World Cup, MLB All-Star Game. It's a big year here.
Well, I remember, too, the 94 Cup that we was here. We didn't have matches here in Philadelphia, but there were matches up in New York, which we traveled up to the Meadowlands to watch. And I think the one thing Philadelphians can't really get their hands around until they see, but be prepared for, is just going to be the international influx that's going to come to this city. And the number of people that will come to watch an Ivory Coast match, that will come to watch Ecuador, and the people and the passion that is for their sport in their country that will come into this city of Philadelphia is going to be so cool to watch unfold. And it's something I want to come down and be a part of the city. Just be a part of the city and watch.
Not even, you don't have to see a game.
No, you watch the fan populace. To watch this summer the way Chelsea fans were in this area for the League Cup this last year. To see the number of fans that came here for matches that quote-unquote didn't count. Imagine the magnitude when they do count. Yeah. And there's international pride in every one of these matches. And every match counts. It's going to be so cool.
I guess the only thing that might compare in terms of a summer overall would be back in '76 when we had the MLB All-Star Game, the NBA All-Star Game, and the NHL All-Star Game. But with the exception of the night before, those are like one-day things. I guess the difference with the World Cup is it extends. And even when the games aren't being played here, there's events and there's all this. It's basically going to be a month-long event.
And Philadelphia's soccer team at the time was?
The Fury?
The Adams. They had the Philadelphia Adams, and one of the cool things I got to see as a kid was I actually saw Pele score a goal, which was one of those memories. Like, I'm a 7th grade kid at Franklin Field and got to see Pele score a goal. I'm like, in hindsight, you're like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most renowned soccer players of all time.
You could appreciate it more now.
Yeah, but even the All-Star Game in '76, guys, there wasn't a home run derby the day before. Mm-hmm. And it was, you showed up Monday, you did a workout, you played the game Tuesday. You left Wednesday, you're back playing Thursday.
It's a whole week now.
Now it's a week-long activity, and the Phillies are actively involved with all of these activities. They're going to come to the city for that week in July. That's going to be part of the whole week of activities. The growth of television networks. Guys, Fox televising these games, you didn't have the TV network coverage that you had now, that you had in the 70s. So it's made it so much more of a spectacle for people.
Talk about the changes you've seen. I was actually scrolling through social media the other day, and you came up on my feed. Not you, but I want to queue up. Could we show from 1997, I believe, spring training, Clearwater, Tom Sredenschek?
There are a lot of words being used to describe this 1997 Phillies team, among them youth and rebuilding. And on paper, that would certainly seem to be true. Their leading winner from 1996 is Curt Schilling. He had 9. Their top home run hitter on the roster, Rex Hudler, who had 16. With the California Angels.
Top hitter was Rex Hudler?
Rex Hudler, who became a broadcaster then with the... By the way, I dyed my hair gray after that. It's
and where
still
did your neck go?
Spring training has even changed, guys. The amount of access it used to have in the clubhouse, and games weren't always on TV, and now everything is brought back home. And the Phillies and then were in Jack Russell Stadium, which, I'll be honest with you, was in a horrible spot of Clearwater, Florida. Now it's this beautiful Tosh facility, and the Phillies are the longest tenured team in one site in spring training in the state of Florida, or for that matter, the Cactus League in Arizona. They are the longest continued site for one team in one city.
You watch that, it makes you appreciate it as much as frustrated as people might be right now with the current team. The previous year, 96, was actually the last time the All-Star game was here.
Yeah.
The most winning pitcher for the Phillies was Schilling. He had 9 wins, and you were mentioning on there that Rex Hudler led the team in 16 home runs, but he did that with the California Angels. He was new to the team that year. So, and what was it, 96? Battalico was the only All-Star rep when the game was here.
And to put in perspective, I can still remember, guys, that Rex Hudler, would talk forever. You ask him a question, and you were running out of videotape. Videotape, which we no longer use.
Yeah, right.
And Battalico was the only All-Star, as you mentioned, Tom, and let us wear a microphone for the workout day. Guys, for a local station, for a guy to wear a microphone for a workout, you're just not going to have those type of things these days. But it was cool to have the All-Star game here. Mike Piazza, I still remember, hit a ball in the upper deck, and if there wasn't a left field section at the vet, that ball might still be traveling. He absolutely smoked it.
You've seen so much. You talk about how the sports landscape has changed. What has changed the most in your eyes in terms of what team you think?
I think the biggest thing, Chris, is the teams have more control of the content, the players. They have their own networks within, and they control the narrative so much more. The amount that we're allowed to get close to these players, access to these players, the amount that you can really get to know them and get that inside information, that's changed because I think teams really control the narrative. And that's not just, the Phillies controlling the baseball product, the Eagles controlling the football product. That's really true of the leagues. The NFL, each individual club controls their narrative. MLB, each individual club controls their narrative. And remember, we're still the voice of the fans. We're still that link to the fans. I think that being cut off is the one thing that disappoints me, that we really don't have what we once did.
Because back in the day, you maybe went out to have a beer with some of these guys.
Yeah.
You saw them in the hotel lobby. There were actually relationships you had, and that's kind of seemed to disappear.
It's become more difficult. I remember, and I don't want to bore you, but training camp used to be with Buddy Ryan. You used to go down to the field. Buddy would rip a player. He used to go up into campus at Lehigh University and find the player. Buddy just called you this. Buddy just called you that. What's your reaction? Run back and get Buddy's reaction to it. But you had that access.
Right.
You had that freedom to go around and do those type of things. Now the whole narrative's controlled.
So you talk about how things have changed. Obviously, you see the growth of something like soccer, where it's part of the lingo now, where it wasn't 15 years ago at all. But at the same time, it seems like things have narrowed, where in the popular media, you might only hear about the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And where maybe 20 years ago you heard more about the Flyers, you heard more. Now, it might be a product of their success or not, but how do you see that? Or are these sports all becoming more niche with podcasts and all that?
They are much more niche with podcasts, Tommy. There's no question about that. But teams then have to be, it's that fine line. They don't give you the access, but they still have to give you enough and give you that niche so that you have a spot in the daily sportscast, that you have a spot on a show like this, that we can talk about the union in moments like this. We're going to control the narrative, but we still want to put that word union out there. We still are going to send you material in hopes that you'll use it to make sure that we're still on the tip of your tongue, that we're still within the conscious. And of course, why? To sell advertising.
Yeah. And one thing that you've seen a lot of changes, so we're going to take a quick break, but the stadiums. I mean, you've seen a lot of stadium changes and maybe more to come.
Stadiums, Chris, and I know we've got to get to a break, stadiums and practice facilities, the areas these guys used to practice in, and the fact that Ivory Coast is going to come here and use the union facilities. Those are state-of-the-art facilities. Before, you were working on at a high school field that may have had ruts that twisted a player's ankle.
I remember Widener University.
Yeah, there you go. When you went to the vet, you went over to JFK Stadium, and there's syringes inside the ground, and the Eagles are practicing right next to this.
Not anymore. All right, we'll get your thoughts on that. Don't go away. More Brotherly Love FC special edition with Fox 29 Sports Director Tom Sredenschek. Don't go away. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Brotherly Love FC. Big World Cup news here in Philly this week. The Ivory Coast choosing Subaru Park in Chester as their team base camp. Jennifer Lee has more on what that means.
You know, they've got a great nickname in Les Elephants.
The Ivory Coast has chosen the Philadelphia Union Subaru Park and Wisfis Bank Sportsplex in Chester as its team base camp during the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
So it's truly exciting. We're honored to be in this position.
The president of the union, Tim McDermott, says their facilities are world class. The Wisfis Bank Sportsplex is 170,000 square feet, featuring 7 outdoor fields, both turf and grass, 6 locker rooms, a 2-story weightlifting center, and a full-size indoor field. The president of the Philadelphia Union says there is a high level of interest with representatives from 5 different World Cup teams coming in to take a look at their facilities.
And ours truly are one of the best facilities in the MLS at this moment. So for a country like that to come in, a team like that to come in, it's a good match for us and them, and we're excited to host them.
Meg Kane, host city executive and CEO for Philadelphia Soccer 2026, says the Ivory Coast last appeared in the World Cup in 2014 and are the champions of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. She says they will be a team to be reckoned with this upcoming FIFA World Cup.
Philadelphia loves a team that's up and coming, that's fighting its way through. So I think that that's a great narrative that marries with our own sports passion and fandom.
The Ivory Coast will play in Philadelphia's opening match against Ecuador on June 14th and again on June 25th against Curacao. Kane says the Ivory Coast selecting their training facilities in Chester and their headquarters in Wilmington during the FIFA World Cup is a big opportunity to showcase the Philadelphia Union and the Delaware Valley on the global stage.
This can be a springboard from a union perspective for fan growth coming out of the World Cup. So we need to make sure that we're in the conversation as much as possible.
When we think about the ability for Cote d'Ivoire or the Ivory Coast to draw in the African diaspora that is near here, it presents such an incredible opportunity for Pennsylvania hospitality and tourism, and specifically a reason for people to visit Pennsylvania.
In Chester, Jennifer Lee, Fox 29 News.
All right, we're joined again by Fox 29 Sports Director Tom Sredenschek. Tom, we were talking about the Subaru Park and the Wisfis Bank Sportsplex.
Yep.
Over the years, you've seen the stadiums come and go, from the Vet, JFK.
Yeah.
The facilities kind of grow with the teams.
They do, Chris. I mean, you folks at home can't see the size of this studio. It was probably bigger than the Eagles' weight room was at that stadium, and it was guys that had to wait in line for a turn. Now the Eagles' weight room is probably the size of a football field, and that's why when the Ivory Coast and these countries of the world are looking for spots that they're going to train, they're going to get the poshest facilities. They're going to get those outstanding areas to work in. They're going to get, if it's not on turf that we're seeing here, if it's grass outside, they're not playing on grass that's got weeds on it. They're playing on Masters-esque courses. You know what I mean? They're going to be playing on those grass fields where you have all the weight facilities, where you have the training facilities of players injured. You want to make sure there's whirlpools. You want to make sure there's tables. You want to make sure all of those essential for an athlete are there today. And these countries all will look at facilities where they can train and where they know they're going to get state-of-the-art facilities.
So
come a long way.
The Lynx obviously hosting World Cup games, which will be the biggest event, short of, locally an NFC Championship game, but even bigger globally. Do you think the next time there's a big event down in that complex, not necessarily at that stadium, we'll see it with Super Bowl there at some point?
Teams usually get facilities in the cold weather, Tom, when they're in a new stadium. Chris, we were out in Minneapolis, as cold as it was and as bad as it was, because it was a new stadium. Stadiums that are built new for teams, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, are going to get this. The fact that the link has been there and established, it's tougher to get that if, and I think it's going to happen in our lifetime, if the Eagles move and Jeffrey Lurie's influence in the league, and he's been for over 30 years, a new stadium is going to equate to a Super Bowl.
And that's where I was going. You think, we could see, it seems like that's what Lurie wants probably before, maybe one of his last things before he hands the team over. And
to his son.
Do you think that will go with a roof?
Yes.
Are you a roof guy for football?
I'm not, but I can see it because it's not just the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's to be able to host Final Fours. It's to be able to host mega events like this and not be restricted by weather. It's to host other events. I can see a retractable, because I think some nice September, October days, you still want that outdoor. But I think when you're indoor, when you have that retractable option, it's going to be there. I remember the 2009 NFC Championship game. The Eagles played out in Arizona, and it was a beautiful day. It was a postcard day in Phoenix in January, and Jeff Lurie wanted the roof open. And the Cardinals, because they were the home team and got the advantage, closed it because they wanted the noise. They wanted it to be louder. The Bidwells wanted the noise inside. They got the roof closed. Cardinals won the championship, went on to the Super Bowl. But if you have that retractable option for, say, a game in September, October, you can pull it back. But you want to host more than just 8 Eagles games, 9 Eagles games a year, and a retractable roof gives you that Super Bowl option.
Tom, I want to go down memory lane here. I did some research
more of that Clearwater video when I had
for several hours on ChatGPT. No, I'm being very serious. You joined Fox 29 in 1986. You've covered multiple Phillies World Series runs, 93, 2008, 2009, Eagles Super Bowl moments, Flyers Stanley Cup coverage in 97, 2010, NBA Finals, 2001 with the Sixers, Big Five, March Madness. You hosted our Good Day Live program. You have too many awards and accolades to list. Penn State grad. What sticks out to you most in your sports career? All those. What are some of those top sports moments?
It's somebody asked me that the other day, Chris, and maybe it was the newness of it. As much as it was a pleasure to cover 2 Super Bowls and be on the field, there was something magical about the 2016 Villanova championship. And to be the fact that no Philadelphia team had won a championship in college basketball in the period I had been there, and to be courtside and watch Chris Jenkins hit that shot, the moment to be actually on the field, the Super Bowl, they hold you off the back area, and you're not on the field when the moment actually comes. To be courtside and watch Chris Jenkins hit that shot, and as close as I am to you, I watch him run into the stands with my phone and watch him hug his mom. And then to be on the court when they do one shining moment. The 16 Nova team, and when we talk about coaches that knew how to play the media, nobody in my time that I've covered in Philadelphia sports knew the media and knew the commitment to his team and married the two together like Jay Wright did. Jay Wright was the best coach that I did. Jay Wright was great to us, knew how to accommodate, and I've also stood backside at practices and listened to him peel paint off a wall and watched the bombs dropped and everything, and players walk to him or revered him and still walk and still revere. In fact, a lot of times they don't call him Jay. You talk to players on that team and it's still Coach Wright. I talked to guys from the 85 championship team, talked to one of them just this morning, and he still says it was Coach Massimino. It wasn't Raleigh. It was Coach Massimino. There was something magical about that 2016 Villanova ride. And they come up short in 2009, learn from it, and to be in Houston when Chris Jenkins hit that shot was magical.
Is the Jay Wright era in Villanova possibly the most impressive era in Philadelphia sports you've seen. I mean, when you look back, look before and look after, that's not an easy thing. And he basically made Villanova a national powerhouse, like in that time period where, I mean, they were good with Steve Lapis, but I mean, it's another level. And they became like in the blue blood conversation suddenly.
They did. And Steve was a great guy and went on to be a good broadcaster and still is. But Jay took his own stamp, his own signature, and had a little bit of Raleigh and a little bit of the stops that he had along the way at Hofstra before that, and kind of made it his own. And what made that period of winning the championship in 2016 and 18 and going again in 22 was, in today's world, the portal hadn't really taken over as much as it had, but players were gone in a year. They were gone in 2 years. Jay Wright recruited and developed kids who were there for 3 or 4 years. You're not going to see that again in college basketball. Right. I mean, Kevin Willard inherited a program this year, and by the time the Kyle Neptune guys left, when he took over, he had 2 players on his roster, which makes it tough for the fans to recognize who the heck are these guys. Jay held his guys together for 3 or 4 years. When Chris Jenkins hit that shot, Josh Hart was on the floor. Archie Diacono is on the floor. Phil Booth is on the floor. Rick Brunson's on the bench. We're talking Hall of Fame-esque NBA players now. They were not even a part of that. But Jay gradually integrated them. They win the championship in 18. They go to the Final Four again in 22. Jay Wright built a culture at Villanova that I think is gone in college athletics.
NIL probably has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, you know what's sad, Chris? And I mean, like, I'm watching the Temple game last night, and I said, I don't recognize any of these guys from last year. Because the guys, they leave and they get a better offer and they go on into the portal. And these AAU coaches say, man, I can get you more money if you get in and play in Memphis. I can get you more money at UCLA. I can get you here. So coaches not only are recruiting players to bring in the program, they're recruiting to keep their own players as free agents, is what they really have become.
It's a different world.
So to get back to your question, Tom, about the way Jay built that program in that period, I don't think we're going to see that again.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back 2 minutes. Brotherly Love FC. One last segment with Tom Sredenschek after the break. Welcome back to Brotherly Love FC. If you're thinking about putting your place up for Airbnb for the FIFA World Cup, now might be the time. Airbnb offering incentives for first-time hosts, people who welcome first guests between now and July 31st in this area are eligible to receive $750. Airbnb, and this is above and beyond the stay that you'll get. Airbnb says stays for FIFA World Cup are surging. Searches for rentals are increasing 80% compared to the same time last year.
Was that your pool in the shot? In that one shot?
That was my pool.
That was the O'Connell backyard.
It's up for Airbnb if you want. Those people from Ivory Coast, which the mascot is?
The Elephants. Did you know that, Chris?
Not until today.
The Philadelphia A's and Ivory Coast, the mascot, the Elephants.
We're going to miss that kind of trivia around here, Tom Sredenschek.
I don't think the groundskeepers at the link, though, are going to let elephants on the field, actual elephants on the. They might. FIFA's pretty flexible. They may draw the line on that one.
We have a couple minutes. Once again, congratulations on an amazing 40-year career. I want to loop it back to soccer, if we could. Where have you seen in your career the state of soccer in Philadelphia? I know the last 20 years we have had the union, but where are we now?
We've grown. I mean, I can remember, like I mentioned earlier in the show, going to Adams games, and their home stadium was Franklin Field. They may have gotten 2,000 or 3,000 people, the diehards. Even I went to high school in the late 70s, early 80s. Soccer was the sport that nobody played. Our team wasn't very good, but you had, the scruff kids were playing soccer. Now it's competitive, and I'm told my high school, it's a tough tryout. It's a tough spot to grow. And I think that speaks volumes of where the sport has come. The fact that more and more kids are playing. That's the future. That's the generation that's going to take this beyond this World Cup, Chris and Tom, and make it even bigger, is this current generation. Not necessarily maybe the three of us, but our kids are going to be the ones that take this to a new level.